Hi, hello. Um, okay, we are doing a full-on hornbill quiz today, which means I should give you the quiz code immediately. It is 30386138, and I'm gonna type it into the chat for you. 30386138. Let me know if you can see me. Muskan says hello, so I assume that I'm here. Hi, Muskan. We are doing a Meti quiz today, and we are going to be revising all of Hornbill, which means we're going to have a lot more questions than usual. And I am letting you know that in advance because the time limit for answering each question is going to reduce by a lot. Where it used to be 30 seconds before, it is now going to be 15 seconds. So that's one thing that I think you should be prepared for. Be prepared to basically answer everything really quickly. While you're joining, and let me know if you're here, I'm going to tell you some things about Unacademy that I usually tell you. First things first, there's something called the Unacademy app. It's a pretty cool place on which there are a lot of cool features, and this is one of the coolest features on it. It's called the Ask It Out feature. And the Ask It Out feature is basically for you to just clarify any doubts that you may have with Unacademy educators. It's a very convenient little feature, and you should definitely take advantage of it and basically get any questions that you have cleared out. Quiz code once again is 30386138. Please join as soon as you can. Yeah, Amritansh, is that your name? Yeah, the class is, well, it's not a class, it's a quiz, but it's on the verge of starting, yes. And oh my god, so many people have said hello. Vimala and Weber and Mossam from long ago. And Ayush, hello to all of you. Sorry, I didn't notice the hellos in the middle of the joining rush. There's also something else that Unacademy offers called Unacademy Plus, which is basically like YouTube but a lot better, in the sense that there are a lot more courses. We do a lot more thorough revision of your syllabus. There are doubt clearing sessions, answer writing sessions. Basically, it's prep for grade 11 and grade 12 in a very thorough manner. It also has study materials and practice tests to get you some revision. These are the costs of Unacademy Plus, and the per month cost is a lot less if you take the subscription for a lot longer. There's also something called Unacademy Iconic, and Iconic is for you if you're interested in an individual learning platform. If you don't want to work with a group of people, if you have specific things that you'd like to work on and you'd like to work on them with an educator, then Unacademy Iconic is what you should go for. Iconic gives you sort of weekly reports on how you're doing. Your parents can be in touch with educators and kind of check in on how you're progressing. Classes can basically be personalized to meet whatever your requirements are, and that's why Unacademy Iconic is cool if you're more interested in completely working on your own. These are the costs of Iconic, and the per month cost once again is a lot less if you take the subscription for a lot longer. I want to repeat the quiz code one last time, and then we'll switch to the quiz immediately. It's 30386138, and I hope you all have that quiz code down. I'm gonna swap us to the quiz right now. Actually, give me a moment. I'm gonna add the leaderboard somewhere in the middle because we have a lot of questions and stuff. Okay, all right. Give me a moment. I'll be right back. We'll see it thrice, 4 times, I think. Once after every 10 questions, I think. Okay, I hope you can see me. I hope you are here. Let me know for sure if you're here. I hope I'm back. Oh, those are lots of little hearts. Okay, great. Let's get into the first question. It's an extract question. On the front, she had drawn caricatures of Mary and me with the words, "Here are some funny people. Did they make you laugh? I laughed a lot as well." Inside was a message. "Oh, how I love you both. So this card is to say thank you and let's hope for the best." Somehow, we had to make it. Okay, so that's the extract, and our first question on the extract is, and this is like, again, 15 seconds, so be a little quick about replying. Okay, there are 3-4 of us. Are more of you joining in? Should I wait for a bit or should I just go ahead and start? I see like 6 people watching this, so if the mystery hidden folks want to join us, the quiz code is 3038-6138 and you can come join us. Identify she, that's the first question. It's a very simple question. Okay, she in this case is Suzanne Cook. Name the author, which is also an easy one, and if there are multiple authors who you think are correct, then choose all of them. Okay. Wow, you're all doing really fast today. Okay, there are 2 correct answers here. One of the authors is Gordon Cook and another one is Alan East. So you should have picked both, but it's okay that you only picked Gordon because Gordon is the key author of this text. Yeah, Muskan, quite a few of these questions are like easy. Some of them you'll be familiar with because we've talked about them a lot. But it's good also that you find them easy because it means you're familiar with these texts and these stories and these questions. Yeah, both of those answers are correct again. Gordon says that they definitely have to make it, partly because when his child hands in this card and she says, "Oh, I hope everything will be okay," he's sort of like, "Oh my god, if only for the sake that she believes, if only for the sake that she's taking all of this so well and handling it with such grace, we have to make it. We have to like save this ship." There's also the fact that she's expressing her affection for him, and that reminds him very much that this is someone that matters a lot to him. His family matters a lot to him, and so he takes sort of strength in her love for him, and that pushes him to try harder. And this story is really lovely, as I've kept saying like multiple times, because it really thinks about how a group of people is a much better way to like deal with the crisis than like trying to deal with it alone. How you can take strength in a collective, basically, which is always like a lovely message. What is a caricature? Oh no, neither of those are caricatures. So a caricature is basically like an exaggerated like drawing, right? You sort of make the head too big or the nose too big, or you make the ears look funny, and through all of that you basically like turn the person into something funny looking. So that's what a caricature is. It's not like an exact representation of the person, so it's not a perfect imitation. It is not stick figures, and it's not drawing made out of shapes. It can be any of those, but what it actually is exaggerated drawing. Drawing people particularly, or things, or animals in exaggerated ways. And that's what a caricature is. I mean, lots of like political comics use caricatures of political leaders so as to make it look sort of like the person but not entirely like the person. And the question is, would the painter from Flanders like Seuss' caricature? No, he very much would not. Why would he not like it? Well, I think I have a couple of questions about European art coming up, but if I don't, I'll tell you in a minute. Okay. What is the engine? Well, the painter from Flanders believes in the perfection of European art, right? And European art is founded on precise imitation of the object. So perfect illusionism is what European art likes. And so if something is not the perfect representation of a person, the painter from Flanders is not going to like it. So when Sue draws these caricatures and they're sort of like imitations of the original but they don't look exactly like it, that's going to be bad art for the painter from Flanders, right? So he decisively would not like caricatures because caricatures are not what Europeans think are perfect art, according to Landscape Soul at least. What is the engine? Yeah, the goldfinch and her family are the engine, and we know that because the goldfinch feeds her family and she says she's stoking the engine full. So the engine is her family and her, and they both sort of like move the entire tree, which is why they're being called the engine. Do you remember Quentin Metzes? Okay, Quentin is a blacksmith. He is one of the painters whose stories we hear about in Landscape of the Soul. The next question is also about him. Yeah, Quentin paints a lifelike fly. Quentin is this blacksmith who wants to run away with a painter's daughter. Elope means to run away and marry Muskan. So basically, like, you run away without like your family's knowledge or information, and you get married in secrecy. So that's what elope means. So Quentin wants to marry a painter's daughter, and the painter's like, you're a blacksmith, which means you can't marry my daughter. She's a painter's daughter. So he sort of like looks down on Quentin and his profession, but then Quentin sneaks into the painter's room, studio, and paints this lifelike fly onto like the painter's paintings. And then when the painter goes to hit the fly, he realizes, oh, this is a really good, perfect, lifelike fly. And so he takes on Quentin as his apprentice. And this is an example that the author gives us to tell us how much European art prizes who is Nishu? And have we lost Ted? Well, nice to have you here, Nishu, whoever you are. Do drop in and say hello. Pick out the phrase that's a poetic device. Oh no, yeah, it is very much the cardboard shows that is the poetic device here. The two girl cousins is not a poetic device. I think we have another question about like what the cardboard shows is as a poetic device, so I don't want to give it away for you right now. But that is the poetic device, and we'll talk about why when we hit that question. Yeah, this is a choose all the correct answers question, so you can pick like multiple answers that are correct. This one seems to have taken you some time. Yeah, both of those are right. The last one is also correct. It also shows the link between culture and how cultures define good art, which is, you know, as I was telling you, that's why, for instance, the painter from Flanders would have been like, no, that's not like a great painting at all, Sue. So yeah. Different places define different art in good ways because of different ideas about like what art should be like, basically. Who writes Landscape of the Soul? An easy question again. I see 7 people sort of watching us. If you want to join the quiz, the code is 30386138. My god, that was a confusing set of answers. Landscape of the Soul is written by Natalie Troveroy. She's an art historian. She's an art historian from Belgium. And she writes this piece called Landscape of the Soul, Ethics and Spirituality in Chinese Paintings. And that's why she tells us so many stories from Belgium. Antwerp, Flanders, both of those places, Belgium. It does not mean the feet will disappear soon. It means that the human beings will soon change and die. Transient, yes, Muskan, transient means temporary. And what's going on here is this poetic device called a transferred epithet, right? What that means is that that descriptive word, transient, is used in connection to feet, right? But it doesn't actually refer to feet, it refers to the entire person. So rather than transient only referring to feet, it's transferred to refer to the entire person, and this is called a transferred epithet. That's a figure of speech in this poem, and this particular moment is an example of transferred epithet. And so yeah, that's why the right answer here is that the humans will soon change and die. Well, even if not die, they will change, and then inevitably, because time goes on, they will die. But on question 13, we're doing quite well. Some similarities between Landscape of the Soul and Discovering Tut. I like this question. I like cross-textual questions in general, like things that connect lessons are always interesting ways of thinking about both the lessons. Okay, 2 of those are right. They do both expose the reader to a new discipline. Landscape of the Soul exposes us to art and considerations of art. Discovering Tut exposes us to archaeology and also to a little bit of history, right? So Discovering Tut really goes to like multiple disciplines, you could say. And yeah, they both definitely examine elements of different cultures. We have Landscape of the Soul thinking about like Chinese art and Chinese philosophy, and we have Discovering Tut thinking about Egyptian culture, their practices when it comes to burial and death, their beliefs, and even some of their history and politics. They do not, however, question what we consider ordinary. They do give us unusual things to think about, but they're not really questioning anything in the process. So that wouldn't be a right answer. Why is it odd that the grandmother is singing with the neighborhood women the evening before she dies? This is quite an easy question, I think. Yeah, it's definitely that she is not praying instead. The narrator has this line immediately after that where he's like, this is the first time that I've seen her not praying. So it's the very, very first time that the grandmother is not praying. It's also odd because, well, she doesn't like music, but what the narrator tells us is odd is the entire aspect of her like not praying. So that's the right answer here because of that. Extract question again. With Tut's entire body similarly recorded, a team of specialists in radiology, forensics, and anatomy began to probe the secrets that the winged goddesses of a gilded burial shrine protected for so long. And our first question here is, hello Shree, nice to have you back. I'm good, how are you? Are you looking forward to the weekend? It's almost here, right? Or yeah, today is Thursday, so one more day of school for you all. Yeah, everyone is absolutely right. The author is A.R. Williams. What are the secrets that are being probed here? It's really nice to hear. Oh, a variety of responses. The secrets that are being probed in this particular extract are two. Right? One, the causes of Tut's death, and two, information about Tut's life. And we know this because although the author tells us things about the political state of old Egyptian times, examining the mummy, putting the mummy through a CT scanner won't tell us anything about the politics of that time, right? It also won't tell us much about Egyptian burial practices. Both of these are things that we already have information about from other sources. In putting Tut's corpse through the CT scanner, what they're trying to find out is how did Tut die? How did he die so soon? And what information can we get about Tut's way of life from like examining his body and bone structure, right? So that's what we're all trying to find out by putting the mummy through a CT scanner. Hello Sonam, yeah, go ahead, join us. I can wait a minute. Good job, Muskan. Hi, Vimala. Well, the text doesn't actually tell us exactly when he died, Muskan. It just says like he died when he was still a teenager. So we don't have the exact age. As per this article, at least, we don't. Though later on they do find out like what age he was, but at the time this article was written, that's something we don't know. Oh, Sonam, I've accidentally like started the next question, but you are still welcome to like come join us. Why does the author write that the winged goddesses are protecting the secrets? Okay, everyone kind of got the answer wrong. So let's spend a couple of minutes maybe talking about this. Alright, so the thing is, when he writes the winged goddesses are protecting the secrets, he's not being serious, right? He's just using that phrase to sort of like make us feel something. So he's deliberately putting it that way to evoke a reaction from us, and he's trying to make us feel like something mysterious is going on here. You know, and he does this throughout like the article. He starts with like that description of the atmosphere with like those dusty like storms, the wind being described as angry, the dust being described as ghost-like. So very much he's trying to make us feel like a little frightened and a little invested in the mystery of the situation. But he himself doesn't like actually think that the myth of the Pharaoh's curse is true. So it's not that. It's not the third option because of that. Also, the Pharaoh's curse is not really about like the secrets of death at all, right? It's just about like if somebody disturbs Tut, then they are going to have terrible things happen to them. So it's not the third option. It's not the second option. Nobody picked that, which is good. And it's not the first option, Muskan, because there is actually like no myth that the murals protect the mummy. I just wrote like some random thing there. So that's not really a myth at all. It doesn't exist as per like this article. So yeah, that's why that's not the right answer. It doesn't actually like, it's not actually a real myth at all. I just came up with some sort of story. What does Chinese art care for in paintings? This one shouldn't be that difficult. Are you all thinking? Okay, Chinese art does not care about realism at all, right? Realism is the exact opposite of what Chinese art cares for. Realism is what European art cares for. So, if like I am drawing, for instance, this pen, then if I was a European artist, then I'd draw it exactly as it is, right? I'd make this part purple, this part pink, etc., etc. And that's realism, and that's what European artists would do. But if I was a Chinese artist, then copying this pen as it exists is not the purpose of my art, right? The purpose of my art is to kind of help guide the inner spirit of the person who is looking at this particular piece of art. So Chinese art, when it does landscape paintings, it tries to draw things in such a way that you kind of look at it and your mind starts to think. And you start to think, for instance, about like your spirit, your soul, and how to achieve balance with the universe, right? That's the entire point of Chinese art. It takes like things that are outside and puts them in random places in like the actual painting. It doesn't replicate reality. So Chinese art definitely is not realistic. So please keep that in mind. Muskan, I studied English actually. Literature. Yeah. Yes, yeah, we'll see the leaderboard in, I think, 1 or 2 like questions. Where was this article published, Discovering Tut? It is not the National Archaeology Times, it's the National Geographic magazine, and you know this because at the very end of the chapter, at the bottom, it's written National Geographic magazine and the year in which the article was published. Oh, Shree, that's so nice to hear. I'm so glad they could help you. Thank you. It's really nice to hear that. Oh, we have a lot of people here with us now. The mysterious Nishu is still at the top, and the mysterious Nishu is still missing from like our chat. But okay, I hope you all got a look at that. What is Tut's full name? Easy question. Or maybe not, it's taking you folks some time. No, Shree, I'm afraid I don't teach on the Unacademy app. I've only been teaching on YouTube. Yes, Muskan, you were the fastest. Oh, everyone got that right? Yep, Tut's full name is Tutankhamun. What is the third face in the portrait of a lady? Okay, most of you got this one right. The third phase is that the grandson gets a separate room. I've misspelled separate, my apologies for that. It's S-A-P-A-R-A-T-E. Three phases, right? The first phase in the grandmother-grandson relationship is that they both live together, and they live in the village, and they're sort of just, you know, happy. The grandmother is the prime person taking care of the grandson. They're incredibly close. They spend their whole day together. Second phase is moving to the city, and in moving to the city, what happens is that the grandson goes to a different school, but they still live in the same room, so they still get to speak to each other sometimes, even though they're changing and their relationship is becoming more distant. But when the room also changes, they both become completely separated from each other, completely isolated from each other, because they don't even have that like same space anymore to live in together and see each other sometimes. Shree, I've been teaching on like Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday. Yeah. What do the three verses of the photograph depict? And oh, it doesn't depict the sorrow of life. It very much depicts like happy moments in life, you know, and it doesn't depict like the transience of the everyday either, because it depicts, if you want to think about transience, it depicts the transience of life itself, or human beings. But what it actually like depicts, those three verses, is the movement of time, right? The first verse is the past of the mother. The second verse is the past of the daughter, and the third verse is the present of the daughter. So those three verses are the movement of time. Yash, we're on question 23, and we have, I think, 15 more minutes. I think we can do it. Okay, it's not all of the above, because the first option is wrong. And the first option is wrong because the photograph doesn't really depict the way that relationships drift apart with time, right? It depicts the way that people like die, but that's not like drifting apart. So that's not the right answer in this particular like question. It's family and affection, which is one thing that both of them cover, and the other one is the changes that time brings. So those are the two right answers, and sorry to those of you that I may have tricked with that first one. What is Ile Amsterdam? Which is a really easy question. Okay. Okay, I haven't picked the right answer for this one, but it's not the second and the third. It's the first one. Ile Amsterdam is a small island which is called New Amsterdam, and it is a scientific base. It is not an island populated by people from Amsterdam. Please don't make that mistake. I can understand why you think it, because it's literally got Amsterdam in its name, but it's still not an island populated by people from Amsterdam. Then sleek is a lizard and alert and abrupt. She enters the thickness and a machine starts up of chitterings, and a tremor of wings and trillings. The whole tree trembles and thrills. And question 25 is, Which of these poetic devices is not in these lines? Oh, I said not in these lines, and whoever chose like none of the above, you would be absolutely right, because these lines have a simile, they have alliteration, and they have a metaphor. The metaphor is a machine starts up. The simile we will, talk about. It's sleek as a lizard. That's a comparison that's being made between the goldfinch and the lizard. And there are definitely alliterations here, but I want you to kind of answer that in the next line. I want you to pick out which of these are alliterations. Okay, an alliteration is basically a poetic device in which both of the words that are right near each other start with the same sound, right? So alert and abrupt is the alliteration here, because it's alert, abrupt. Trembles and thrills is not an alliteration, because so generally when it comes to alliterations, we don't think about words like A and D being in the middle, right? Even if A and D is there, it can be an alliteration, but the sound still has to be the same on either side of and. Trembles and thrills is not an alliteration, because trembles is th and thrills is th, right? So that's not the same sound at all. So trembles and thrills is definitely not an alliteration. I thought you all may make that mistake, which is why I wanted to warn you about it. Yes, option C is not correct, because it's not the same letter that decides an alliteration. It's the same sound, right? So when you're deciding if something is an alliteration, say it out loud and be like trembles, thrills, and you immediately sort of see that that sound that's coming out of your mouth is not the same, and because of that, you know it's not an alliteration. So alliteration depends on depends on the sound. Yeah, I just wanted to clarify that. Yeah, A is a metaphor. The other two are candidates for alliteration, and the third is definitely not one, as we just found out. Yash, I hope that makes sense. Muskan, it's not about the and. Even if there is and, it's okay, and it can be an alliteration, but the sound is what decides whether it's an alliteration. Okay, most of you are right on this one. The goldfinch is compared to a lizard because she moves with the quickness of a lizard. And we know that because we're told she is as sleek as a lizard, and then her movement is described. And sleek, if you go and you try to look it up, it'll tell you it's like as smooth as the lizard, etc., etc. But the smoothness refers to the movement rather than the actual touch of a lizard, or how a lizard feels. So in this particular case, that sort of sleekness is the movement of the lizard. If you've seen a lizard move, it sort of just goes scuttle, 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 and that's kind of how the goldfinch is moving also. Leaderboard again. Okay, and now, all right. That was really terrifying. All of it was moving, and I was like, I don't know what's happening. But I see Nishu is still at the top, and Tanu is now the fastest. And Ted, I think, just joined us and then disappeared. She often told us of the games she used to play as a child that seemed quite absurd and undignified on her part, and we treated it like the fables of the prophets she used to tell us. Name the poetic device. Oh, metaphor. No, it's definitely not a metaphor. Look at this. It says we treated it like the fables of the prophets she used to tell us, right? And the only like poetic device that we have here is like the fables of the prophets she used to tell us. So it's very much a simile. There's a comparison being made between the grandmother telling stories about the games she used to play and the grandmother telling stories about the fables of the prophets. So the comparison is also connected by a like, which suggests that it's a simile, because similes are comparisons that use like or as. So very much simile is what is going on here. And what is the simile? After you choose like your answer to this one, let's talk about what the simile is trying to do. Oh, a couple more questions in. Let's talk about it. This is easy, right? What? No, she in these lines is the grandmother. Y'all. Okay, I'm gonna take us back to this. This is from the Portrait of a Lady. This is about the grandmother telling her grandson stories about back when she was a child, and the grandson sort of like, that makes no sense. You used to play games. How come you used to play games? That sounds like a fable that you're telling us. And why does he think that? We'll find out. But this extract, I think you've misidentified. It's from the Portrait of a Lady, and it's really not from We're Not Afraid to Die If We Can Be Together. Yeah, exactly. She's so old and so serious that it's entirely difficult to imagine her playing games. And that's why the narrator compares this to like fables of the prophets, because fables are fictional stories, right? Or they sound like fictional stories, things that are a bit detached from reality, couldn't really have happened. And just like that, the narrator thinks, oh, my grandmother can't really have played games. It's not possible that she was actually ever young, or that she actually ever played games. So that's why that particular simile is taking place. The simile with like the fables of the prophets. Okay, this is a good question. Which art form is Chinese art most similar to? Not different from, similar to. Oh, this one is like a 30-second question, so you have some time with it. Yeah, exactly. It's figurative painting, right? Figurative painting is basically painting that isn't interested in being an exact representation of reality. It is a lot more interested in being abstract and, taking off from something in reality and going somewhere else with it. And just like that, Chinese art also sort of doesn't like represent what is there in reality. So figurative painting and Chinese art are similar in nature. And it's definitely not perfect illusionistic art, because as we know, the contrast between Western art and Chinese art is that Western art generally cares more for perfect illusionism. The sea holiday is her past, mine is her laughter, both ride with the labored ease of loss. Question 32, we have only 10 questions left. I think we're going to go a little above time. We'll hit until like 4:10, I think, and then we should be done. Name the poetic device in these lines. Okay, everyone who said oxymoron, you would be correct. The oxymoron is labored ease. Oh, I think I've given away the next question, but it's okay. It's not a metaphor. There's no metaphor in those lines. A metaphor, just for like everyone listening, is okay. So I've not actually given the question that I thought I had. That's fine. A metaphor, for everyone who isn't sure, is also a comparison. The difference is that it's not a comparison that's being made using something like or as, right? It's just a sort of very like direct comparison that's being made. For instance, if the narrator said, oh, my grandmother's tales were like the tales of the prophet, rather than saying like my grandmother's tales are, no, I used like, didn't I? Sorry, bad example. But yeah, if like the use of the like isn't there or the use of the as isn't there, it's basically like a metaphor. Machine from like the laburnum top is a metaphor, for instance, because we're not being told that the tree is like the machine, we're just being told the tree is the machine. Okay, labored ease of loss is an oxymoron, and an oxymoron is when two words that are different from each other are put right next to each other. They're considered opposites, but they're used together. Labored means difficult, ease means easy, and putting those together is two opposite words being put right next to each other to create a different phrase called labored ease, which means that she gets used to the difficulty of the loss, but it's still difficult. Loss is definitely difficult, right? She's not saying that loss is not difficult. She's saying that it's difficult and yet you get sort of used to it, and that is the easy part of it. You become really familiar with it, and yet it's still painful. I was describing this the other day as like exercising, and if you're exercising for the first time in like a really long time, then you know your body's going to be sore. And if you keep exercising, you get more and more used to it, but there's still like effort being put into it, right? So there's still difficulty even as like you get used to that sense of moving your body. Muskan, onomatopoeia is sound words. Chittering is onomatopoeia. Sound words that sound like the sounds that are being made. So chitter has like that sort of sound that the words make in it. So that's like an example of onomatopoeia. Am I still here? My connection, it tells me, is unstable. Kavita, it's okay, you can join us now. We have like 10 questions left, but we'd love to have you. Oh, we have less than 10 questions left, but it's okay, you can still join us. It's a photograph, by the way. I'm very sorry about that. Multiple correct answers here. Okay, and people have chosen a set of things. The right answer is the pain of memories and the transience of life. When you say the painfulness of the past, that theme doesn't entirely make sense, because the past here is good, right? So the past is very much like full of good things. So it's the fact that the past is full of good things that makes like remembering it painful. So it's not the painfulness of the past itself so much as the painfulness of memories of the good past. So the right answer is the pain of the memories and the transience of life. I think our very last leaderboard will show up at the very end. Why did the tree name himself? Yeah, it was part of his work in restoring the old order of Egypt. The old order of Egypt was kind of wrecked by this person who took over before him, called Akhenaten. and Akhenaten does a bunch of like really terrible things, and there's a question about that. But yeah, he appends the way that like Egyptians live life, and then after that Tutankhamun comes in and he restores all of those things. Yeah, everyone got that right. The comparison between the grandmother and the winter landscapes is that she is calm and peaceful, like the winter landscapes. What does the lack of seeds on the tree represent? Okay, it doesn't represent the death of the tree. It's just it's kind of the end of the year, and so like all the things are like all the seeds are falling off the tree, but the tree isn't dead, right? It's very much going to come back to life very soon. It doesn't represent the end of the year either, because like, I mean, it is the end of the year, but the lack of seeds specifically don't represent that, right? They represent that there is no life on the tree. And we know that because seeds represent life, and if the seeds aren't there on the tree, what they're trying to hint at is the absence of life. The reason that it isn't the first one is because when you're thinking about like a specific thing as a symbol, you have to think about what it stands for, right? And seeds stand for something specific, which is life, and the absence of seeds will in turn stand for the absence of life. But seeds don't stand, for instance, for the start of the year or something like that. So it's difficult to say that it's the first one. We're almost done. What is a crucial part of Chinese philosophy? This is also one of my favorite questions, simply because of what the answer is. Yeah, it's the anecdote that is a crucial part of Chinese philosophy. The anecdote is a short story. So Chinese philosophy uses a lot of short stories to convey a message. And I particularly like it because that's what we do with literature all the time. We read stories and we try to see what they're telling us, right? What is the relevance of the middle void? What is the middle void? What does it do? Yeah, the middle void creates a space for yin and yang to come together. It doesn't balance yin and yang. Yin and yang are actually like completely balanced already. I mean, they're always meant to be in balance in order for the world to like keep working. But it basically is like that empty space in which yin and yang come together, and it doesn't destroy any obstacles or anything like that. Oh, do I look very different, Abhinay, in the thumbnail and here? I don't know. How do I look different? It might be the hair. Based on how I comb my hair, I really do look different. Okay, The ritual resin here refers to the act of turning tooth into a mummy. So what happens is, when somebody dies in ancient Egypt, what they used to do is they used to cover the body of that person with a lot of salt for like 70 days. All the moisture in the body used to be sucked out because of the salt, and then after that what they used to do is they take resin, which is natural substances that are sort of sticky, and they'd put linen, which is cloth, in the resin, and they'd wrap it around a person in order to turn a person into a mummy. So they'd use the resin for mummifying someone. So the ritual here is the act of turning tooth into a mummy, or mummification. There's nothing about them covering pharaohs in resin to like mark their royalty or anything like that. Okay, we've almost reached the end. How has archaeology changed in the last decades? And this is a pretty easy one. Yeah, archaeology has changed in the last decades because it wants to study life and death now. Previously, it wanted to study treasures. That was the prime focus of archaeology. However, now it's far more invested in questions of life and death. And we've hit the very last. Question. What are the 4 verses of the Onomatopoeia show? Oh no. Okay, it doesn't show the liveliness of nature, y'all, and the reason that it doesn't show the liveliness of nature is because very much like a large part of the Onomatopoeia is about how like the tree is dead and then the tree goes back to being dead when the goldfinch is gone, right? And it doesn't show the beauty of animals over trees either, because the goldfinch gives to the tree, but the tree also gives to the goldfinch. The tree is shelter and the goldfinch brings life to the tree. And it doesn't show the horror of fall because the goldfinch comes in and, you know, all of the sort of sorrow and silence is immediately dispelled. So very much what it shows is the fact that nothing is constant in nature. We have death, we have life, we have death again. And that kind of back and forth that's going on in the Onomatopoeia displays how nature is also constantly changing, shifting, moving. And that brings us to the end of the quiz. Oh, and it's Muskan who has won the quiz. Good job, Muskan, and good job to everyone. Actually, you've all done like pretty well, and I'm trying to see like, can I see your names? Okay, yeah, I can't see all of your names, but some fun names today. We've had someone called Barefoot Contessa, very fun name. And we've had like people who've gotten 18,000 points and 15,000 points, and I think that's, and 21,000, that is Nishu. And then like a bunch of other names that are sort of hidden, but a couple of 11,000s and a 10,000 and a 1,000. Oh, that must be like the person who joined us in the end, I think, Kavya, probably. Oh, Yash is Tanu. Oh wow, I didn't know that. And Adesh is Nishu. I'm guessing none of your names are like your real names on YouTube, but nice. Thanks so much for like playing this quiz with me, and good job to everyone for participating, especially. I had a lot of fun, and I hope you had quite some fun too. Finally, sort of, well, all I have to say is thanks for being here with me today. I hope you liked the session. Do leave a like if you did. I want to let you know that this is actually my last day at Unacademy. I won't be taking these classes on YouTube anymore. And I just wanted to say, in general, it was really nice to meet all of you and get to like learn with you across all of this time and have some fun with you across all of this time too. Glad you enjoyed it, Radha. But I also want to let you know that if you want to get in touch with me, then you're welcome to like leave me comments on my videos. I will generally respond to you and tell you like replies to whatever you want to know. I will also like send my email ID out on the Telegram channel. You can join the Telegram channel using the description box link. But yeah, I'll put my email ID up there. And if you want to get in touch with me, then you're very, very welcome to like get in touch with me via my email. I don't have a YouTube channel, Vishnu, but yeah, that is it. Thanks again, everyone, and bye.